Hello everyone. I decided to make another video regarding the Kyle Rittenhouse issue to bring you some updates on some things that have been discovered that weren't really previously discussed, as well as some new developments. I'm sorry that I haven't made as much content as I was. It turns out that the injury that I thought was healing was actually getting worse, so I have a degenerative problem in my spine that makes sitting in chairs extremely painful, and unfortunately it's probably only going to get worse. So anyway, that's the reason I haven't made as many videos lately, and it's because of the fact that I can't sit down and edit them. I usually get a very brief amount of time before I can have to get out of my chair, basically. So I'm going to try to squeeze this together. So, in the Washington Post, they reported some information about Joseph Rosenbaum. It turned out that Joseph Rosenbaum, apparently that day, on August 25th, Rosenbaum was discharged from a Milwaukee hospital following his second suicide attempt in as many months and dumped on the streets of Kenosha. So Rosenbaum actually had a long history with mental illness problems, not exactly surprising. It turns out that he had been molested by his stepfather most of his life. And that probably is what led him into the downward spiral that led to him abusing 5 children on his own. But basically, he apparently had tried to kill himself twice leading up to this incident where he ended up going up against Kyle. And that would be kind of an interesting explanation as to why he felt so, well, I mean, he just flat out said, "I don't give a fuck," and tried to start fights with armed people all night long. So, with that said, basically, I just this revelation that he had just been discharged from a Milwaukee hospital following his second suicide attempt in as many months and dumped on the streets of Kenosha, basically means that the guy was definitely not of sound mind. It says he had spent most of his adult life in prison for sexual conduct with children when he was 18 and struggled with bipolar disorder. So they also, in this article, detail a lot of other personal history on other people that were involved in the incident, and I guess I will link this article below in my description, but I will warn you ahead of time that there are some serious inaccuracies about what went on during the course of the shooting in this article, but I think that those details are pretty much only available to someone who has spent a great deal of time reviewing the video, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt in this regard. So, another update. It turns out that Kyle Rittenhouse will not be charged for gun offenses in Illinois. According to the prosecutors, the Lake County State's Attorney Office says it will not file additional charges against Kyle Rittenhouse in connection to the gun he allegedly used to fatally shoot 2 people during protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Antioch police determined that his rifle was purchased, stored, and used in Wisconsin, not in violation of Illinois law, the state's attorney's office said Tuesday in a statement. Also, there is no evidence the gun was ever possessed by Rittenhouse, 17, in Illinois, prosecutors said. Rittenhouse was arrested at his Antioch home a day after prosecutors say he shot and killed 2 protesters and injured a 3rd in Kenosha on August 25th during protests over Jacob Blake's shooting. Rittenhouse is charged with first-degree intentional homicide and the killing of 2 protesters, and attempted intentional homicide and the wounding of a 3rd. He also faces a misdemeanor charge of underage firearm possession for wielding a semi-automatic rifle in Wisconsin. He remains held in Juvenile Detention Center in Lake County without bond due to pending criminal charges in Kenosha. Rittenhouse is due in Lake County Court on October 30th for an extradition hearing. Rittenhouse's lawyer has argued that the teen shouldn't be sent back to Wisconsin to face homicide charges because this is not a legitimate criminal prosecution, it is a political prosecution. So, anyway, this does not get Kyle out of the woods, so to speak, but it does mean that he's not going to be charged for possessing the firearm, at least in Illinois. Now, somebody who is finally going to get charged, however, is none other than Josh Zaminski. He, also known as Alex Blaine, but man who fired first shots behind Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha has been charged. Joshua Zaminski, 35, had been charged with disorderly conduct and use of a dangerous weapon for firing his weapon during the incident on August 25th. According to the charging document obtained by the Gateway Pundit, while investigating the shooting by Rittenhouse, Kenosha detectives obtained videos in which Zaminski was holding a black handgun, which he was holding in his left hand pointing downward. Detective Howard reports that in reviewing multiple other videos, he was able to see the defendant and Kelly Zaminski, apparently not Ashley Kruger, in and around multiple other people on the streets, and the defendant was seen holding the handgun down at his side in said videos. In another video, the defendant and Kelly are seen walking near a fire in the area of the Ultimate gas station lot. In a later video, the defendant's right arm is seen on the video, which is taken in 63rd Street and Sheridan Road in City and County of Kenosha, State of Wisconsin. Detective Howard reports the defendant's arm pointing the gun upward towards the sky. Those of you who've watched my Rittenhouse incident video, you guys are already very familiar with this, but it basically just says that the detective saw what I had already described to you, that he fired off his gun into the air, which is what led to Kyle turning around to fire on Rosenbaum when Rosenbaum reached for his gun. Anyway, it says the police go on to report that when speaking to Zaminski and his wife, who was present at the time, both admitted that he had fired off a warning shot into the air. This strengthens the case that Rittenhouse had reason to fear for his life and was acting in self-defense when he shot and killed 2 rioters. A New York Times timeline of events of the shooting states, while Mr. Rittenhouse is being pursued by the group, an unknown gunman fires into the air, though it's unclear why. The weapon's muzzle flash appears in footage filmed at the scene. Mr. Rittenhouse turns toward the sound of gunfire as another pursuer lunges toward him from the same direction. Mr. Rittenhouse then fires 4 times and appears to shoot the man in the head. That's from the New York Times. But anyway, so this is good news because Zaminski is perhaps, if there was ever anybody who was directly involved, or rather directly responsible due to irresponsible behavior with his firearm, it would be him. I'm pretty confident he also should not have had his gun in the first place, but and it does also mention here, reported on Tuesday, that Rittenhouse will not be charged in Illinois for the weapon used during the riot. Rittenhouse is a community lifeguard who was working in Kenosha. Anyway, we already know all that stuff. So, but here's the criminal complaint against Joshua Zaminski. Says, Count 1, disorderly conduct, use of a dangerous weapon. The above-named defendant on or about Tuesday, August 25th, 2020, in the city of Kenosha, Kenosha County, Wisconsin, while in a public or private place, did engage in violent, abusive, indecent, profane, boisterous, unreasonably loud, or otherwise disorderly conduct under circumstances in which such a conduct tended to cause or provoke a disturbance, contrary to, give some, Wisconsin codes. On conviction may be fined not more than $1,000 or imprisoned not more than 90 days, and further invoking the provisions because of the defendant committed in this crime while using a dangerous weapon, the maximum term of imprisonment may be increased to not more than 6 months. Now, he is a habitual offender, and he's got multiple firearms charges. I'd be kind of curious if he had to have been a felon, but get into that later. Probable cause. On August 25th, 2020, Kenosha Police Detective Howard and Detective Antara were assigned to investigate 2 homicides that occurred in 6100 and 6200 blocks of Sheridan Road. In the course of investigating the homicides, detectives reviewed numerous videos of the incidents and the night in question. Detective Howard reports reviewing 1 video from the night of August 25th, 2020. This video depicted the area of the Ultimate gas station. This is basically just explaining all of it as far as to how they saw it. And I'll leave a link to this article in the description as well. But anyway, so this is good because honestly, this guy needed to be included in this because his actions clearly make him partially responsible for everything that took place after the fact. So I'm still working on some videos. As I said, unfortunately, my injury makes sitting in my chair extremely difficult. So I'm going to have to figure out some different ways. I'm thinking about perhaps getting a laptop, and there are desks that you can use in your bed, which is what I may have to do. The extent of my spinal injury is such that I can't stand for long periods of time, and I can't sit for long periods of time. Pretty much the only thing I can do for long periods of time is lay down, and that's not entirely comfortable either. So But I am committed to continuing to push for the truth in this situation and to see justice for Kyle Rittenhouse. Thanks again for tuning in, folks.